Hello everyone, my name's Craig Sennett and welcome to Suffolk Business Life. With me today is Tim Meadows-Smith, who does a number of roles. Thanks very much for coming in, Tim.
Welcome.
Can you tell us a little bit about your history first? You know, where did you sort of originate from, you know, in terms of work-wise? What was your sort of career path?
My career path, the first job I had, I was 8 years old.
All right, yeah.
wanted to buy a birthday present for my mum, and I helped the milkman. And by the time I was 10, I got 3 jobs. I was running the milk round and 2 paper rounds, and actually bought my first foreign holiday at 10 years old.
There you go. That's all right.
So I sort of, as you very often find with entrepreneurs, started very young, always had an eye for making money. While I was doing my A-levels, I was running a chain of greengrocers shops. Went off to university and didn't agree with me at all, so I passed my first year and left. And I started working in a supermarket chain, trained as a butcher.
What did you study at uni then?
Botany and zoology.
Right, okay, yeah, animals, yeah.
Indeed.
Plants, yeah.
Well, if I'd spent less time running greengrocers shops and more time doing A-levels, I would have gone to medical school, but I think that was a narrow escape.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting,
and, actually, the commercial life is what I've always loved, and I joined Kellogg's at 19 years old as a sales rep, and took the Chartered Institute of Secretaries and Administrators exams in night school, and then went up the marketing route with people like Premier Foods and Pillsbury and Grand Met, and set up Häagen-Dazs across Europe for Grand Met. And then at the grand old age of 34 decided that I would retire from corporate life, and thought I was going to have a couple of years off. I think I lasted 2 months before I bought a failing startup, which was a tea business, and over a period of 5 years I built that up, and in '99 I won Grocery Exporter of the Year for selling tea to China and Japan.
Right,
And I sold that business and put all the money into a .com, and for a short time they told me I was close to being a billionaire, but I can tell you that at the end of the year I was worth about nothing.
Yeah.
And I spent about a year running an insolvent business because our VC, who had promised us 10 million, actually only managed to deliver 8 of it, and we didn't quite get to the point of break even before they ran out of money. So the business partner and I actually bought the business back from the VC for very little, because they had no money and we had
Couldn't
at
really
least
argue,
some. And that's really where I learned my skills of business doctoring, because we managed to run a company for about a year with, at one time, 40 employees with literally nothing in the gas tank, and we managed to stay the right side of the law, and eventually bought the business back, restructured it, and indeed we still have that business today, and it generates a nice lifestyle income.
So you've seen the different sides from comfy, cosy corporate life through to, you know, struggling SME that, is in the running out of funding side.
Indeed, and when I left Grand Met, frankly I thought I could walk on water. But you sit down the first time as a small entrepreneur and deploy your normal negotiating skills, and I remember having the shock of my life when somebody said, "Well, Mr. Meadows-Smith, that's all very interesting, but can you pay for it?" And of course, it completely floored. I didn't know what to say. I'm not usually stuck for words.
It's true that, funny enough. I mean, it's as you know, with the show, sort of thing, we focus a lot on the local sort of aspect, and it's an interesting thing. I remember years ago, as an employee, a sort of boss of mine saying, "Well, you're talking to this company. They haven't got the money. Don't waste your time. They do not have the money to pay for what you're trying to sell them." And being a young salesman, it's like you dig your heels in and you think, well, actually, no, I can close this. I can close this. But what I wasn't listening to was, I know you can, but I can't pay for it. So it's I've been there. So, what would you say has been what sort of one of the biggest lessons that you've learned from what you do?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned is the importance of other people and having a team around you. I think there is a tendency from people who have the sort of personality that wants to set up in business, to think that they actually would like to do it all themselves. And in fact, there are some people who would rather fail alone than succeed with other people. And I can honestly say that any success I've had in my career is down to the people I've had around me. And it took me quite a long time to understand that the reason I was successful in corporate life was I always hired people better than me.
Better than yourself, yeah.
But when it's your own money, you have a tendency to think, well, I can cover that, I can cover the other, and I'll just hire cheap people. Always a mistake. You always want to hire, in small quantities, the best people you can afford.
Yeah, it's risk versus reward, efforts and results,
Always.
really. And I know from my own time, it's very true, when as you know, I run my own business. When you sit there and you think, well, I've got X amount of money in the bank, I can do that myself, so why do I want to? Whereas ironically, you could probably end up achieving double the results if you brought someone else in and spent a little bit of the money you got. It's that constant balancing act.
Oh, look, if you look at the billionaires in the world, they all have the same model. They apply the 80-20 principle to its extreme. And they don't actually do 80-20, they find the 98-2, and they manage to get 50 lots of 2 that are generating 98% of the profit.
A lot of them, interestingly enough, have also failed before they've made it big.
We all fail every day. My most productive people are always the people who make the most mistakes. The secret is not to avoid making mistakes, it's to make them quick, make them early, and make them of as little pain as possible so that you learn from that. But the man who never made a mistake never did anything.
Yeah.
We've all made lots of mistakes. I'm still making mistakes every day. I only really kick myself if I make the same mistake that I've made previously.
Too many times, yeah.
Because that's what you don't want to do.
With the, I remember a lesson for myself where, my business, we were sort of paying just shy of £2,000 a month in office rental space on a 3-year lease, and no one come to see it. All our clients were in London and overseas. None of them came to see our office, in Ipswich, and it was an absolute waste of money, really. Lesson learned. We had the money; it wasn't really a problem in that. But I'm now sort of sitting here now thinking, well, actually, there's sort of 60 odd grand I probably could add in, the business bank account. And that's, we survived the mistake and we learnt the lesson and we moved to much cheaper premises when the lease was ended. And I made the same mistake with car leasing. But it's about, being able to survive the mistakes. And for me, a big thing in business and something that I've written about a lot is endurance. It's being able to, business isn't a sprint. It's about being able to survive. You look at the longest brands, they've been around a long time. And that for me is a very important part of business. Is you'll have outstanding moments where you're literally on top of the world, can't believe how well you've done, but you'll also have the lows, and it's picking yourself up and dusting yourself off when you've had a bad one, but it's also not spending 6 months gloating about how good your last one good one was because you've still got bills to pay.
Yep. Indeed.
So any sort of examples of things that you'd be prepared to sort of share, sort of the things that you've done where you thought, actually, I wish I hadn't done that, but you survive and get through it? Sort of anything spring to mind?
In the last 5 years, I've personally taken 2 very big hits. 4 years ago, I took a hit of close to £400,000, where I was trying to create a case study for a new suite of software product, and we got very close to final delivery, and it then became apparent that the health of the company that we had as a client, which was good when we started, had hit the recession, and we'd allowed the terms that looked sensible in 2007 to become a problem in 2008 when the world collapsed, and of course the distribution industry is one that gets hit as a lead industry. So it was cheaper to walk away from that than to fight it in court and potentially get nothing, because in fact there was nothing to win. And then 2 years ago, on a turnaround basis, I got involved and I made the fatal mistake that I had never done before and will never do again, which is to take a personal stake in a distressed turnaround that turned out to be in trouble because of a fraud. And within the space of 6 months, I walked away from 180 grand that was lost on the back of fraud. So the thing to do is to stick to your rules and don't make the same mistake again.
I think the fraud one's a difficult one to detect, because when that sort of thing's going on, you know, as you read it, you sort of see some of the stuff in the news and the media, and you think, how could someone not know? But you know, I've seen examples where someone's done something less than ethical, you know, as an employee at work, and people are quite good at covering it up. You know, so it's not always as easy to spot as, you know, sort of people might think.
Well, and the other problem, of course, is access to the law. Everybody knows what the laws are, and we assume that everybody else is playing by them. But the point at which you want to take several people to court, it costs a lot of money to get to the point of judgment. And again, do they have the money to pay out not only the penalty that you're looking for, but all of your costs that run up to it? And the answer usually is no.
And the lawyers never lose.
And
you
the
know,
lawyers
the
never
law
lose.
bill's got to
And
be paid,
so
yeah.
the smart thing to do is just to take a look at the overall cost, the risk, and the opportunity cost of pursuing a legal case, which is a full-time job, or just walking away from it, paying the bills, and starting again. And I see this over and over again in the distress turnaround work that I do. Generally speaking, the things that catch people out are leases. People take bad advice and often trade as sole traders and take on a lease. I would advise nobody ever as a sole trader to take on a lease. Always do that through a limited liability company. Because if it all goes wrong, the only thing you've lost is your share capital. It's a limited company. Whereas if you're a sole trader, you lose literally everything. Your house, your pension, your savings, and you put your family through hell. And I handled one of those not very long ago where, you know, a really nice couple, he got a well-paid managerial job, she was running a nice little shop, everything was very profitable, got 2 teenage kids, really nice, classic, comfortable lifestyle. And then one fine day, the lady decides it's going so well, she's going to take on a second shop. And within a month of having taken out a second lease on a second shop, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And by the time they'd asked for advice, they had borrowed and spent £80,000 trying to live up to the lease commitment on the second shop. And it took a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge of the law to help them to get out of that and to recover from it, and to ensure that, you know, not only did they not lose everything, but we managed to protect a number of their creditors as well.